If you have swelling in your lower extremity in your toes, you'll want to use a gauze bandage such as this to wrap your toes and reduce the edema in those toes. It's an elastic bandage. It is not an off-the-shelf bandage, so you'll want to talk to your therapist or your medical supplier to get the correct bandage. You'll need to be able to reach your feet for this, so either using a stool or the edge of a bathtub if you're sitting on a toilet, or some way you'll need to be able to reach your feet to be able to do this independently. We start by creating a circle of gauze around the foot to anchor the gauze. Go around once, then we're going to go across around the toe, going up to the nail bed, around twice if you have a lot of edema, or in some cases you might do it just once. Come around the back of the foot again to the second toe, around the toe, twice if you have a lot of edema, up to the nail bed, come across once more, creating a fanned position of the bandage. We're going to go to the third toe, trying not to get any wrinkles, around the third toe, to the edge of the nail bed, coming off that again in a fan type position. One more time to the fourth toe. You may only want to go around the fourth toe once if it's a small toe, twice if you have a lot of edema, trying to get that down so that the nail bed shows. Come off the same direction as we had before, come around one more time, and now you're going to do maybe just one pass around the fifth toe. You're going to take the rest of the roll of gauze without much tension, roll it across the forefoot. If you have edema here, you can keep going around the forefoot right here. And then just stick the bandage there and it will stay. Sometimes you'll have extra swelling between your toes that's in the web spaces, and if that occurs, you can do a special technique using the bandage to create a sling between the toes, which I'll show you now. We come around the toe right here, all the way around the big toe, and then pull down, and that creates a cross. Come around again, across the second toe, around the second toe, and then it pulls down, crosses again. One more time around the third toe, straight around and pull down again. And in case you want to put your last two toes together, pull down again. And just then stick the bandage or tuck it into the front right there. And that way you have, when you bend your toes and walk, you'll get a pull in between the toes right here of that sling bandage. Again, it should not be too tight. It should just be snug. Now that you've finished bandaging your toes, you may need to bandage from your foot up to your knee. So we're going to do that in our next segment. But let's go over the different products that we're going to potentially need for that. Oftentimes, a therapist will advise you to use a piece of stockinette, which is a thin piece of stockinette for hygiene purposes that will cover your leg. Unfortunately, sometimes when the skin's very thin and it's fragile, this stockinette, as it gets stretched further and further, becomes a bit abrasive. So if your skin is sensitive and you feel like this is becoming abrasive or irritating it, it's okay not to use it. Next, what we'll need is something to pad the leg with to distribute the forces of the bandages as they wrap up around your leg. There are a couple of ways that you can do that. Often people use a cast padding, but I've found that using polar fleece is exceptionally good because from a hygiene perspective, it allows you to wash these pretty frequently and they last for a really long time. So a yard of polar fleece will generally do an entire leg. So I cut them into 6 to 8 inch strips like this, cut the selvage off so that there are no linear pressures that are being put to your leg. So taking a piece of cast padding or a piece of polar fleece like this, I'm going to start with the bandage roll going to the bottom of my foot, come around my foot like this, twice around, trying to get no wrinkles again. I'm going to come around my ankle, across my heel, back around my foot one more time, and then I'm going to wrap up my leg, keeping my ankle at a 90-degree angle. The nice thing about the polar fleece is if it wrinkles a little bit, it's not a big problem because it's just fluffy and it fills in space. So now I'm coming around my ankle here. I'm going to grab one more piece, polar fleece. If you have a lot of narrowing at your ankle, we want to fill that in. What we're trying to do to get good gradient pressure is to take the space between the ankle and the knee and have it be a gradual angle as opposed to something that's the shape of an hourglass or a champagne glass. So if you need to fill that in a little bit extra with a little bit of polar fleece, that works well too. And I'm just going to spiral wrap up my leg till I get it all up around to the base of my knee. There we go. The next thing that you'll need is some short stretch bandages. This is an 8 centimeter and this is a 10 centimeter bandage. 8 centimeter bandage starts on the lower leg. Taking your 8 centimeter bandage, you're going to once again anchor around your foot. Go once more around so that it's a good anchor. You're going to go across the base of the heel. Come around the front of your foot, around your ankle, twice, and then diagonally come back down across your ankle, the whole time keeping your foot in as much of a 90-degree position as you can. You can stretch it across the top like this so that it doesn't wrinkle like that. Lay it down and hold it as you come across. Around your foot one more time, and then up across the ankle. There are a couple of ways that you can wrap your ankle and your lower leg. You can either do a herringbone pattern or you can do a spiral pattern. I'm choosing to do a spiral pattern today. It's a little easier to do. But your therapist may show you how to do a herringbone. So now when I pull that around my ankle, I'm going to give it a little snug. Lay it down again, snug again. Snug, lay down, and snug. And as I do this, you'll notice I've got about 50% coverage of the layers as I go up. I may only go up to the mid part of my leg and then start to come back down because we're going to put another bandage on top of this. And now I'm back to my ankle. I'll use a piece of tape. I like to use masking tape because masking tape does not leave glue on your bandages. Next bandage is going to be a 10 centimeter bandage. So you give it a little squeeze and you're looking for some firmness of the wrapping. And I'm going to start about here, in the middle of my lower leg. And again, I'm going to give it a little snug, snug, snug. Notice that I'm keeping the roll of the bandage on the leg. I'm not trying to put it on from up in the air like this. So keep it so that you can roll it flat on your leg. Snug, snug. I'm going to go up to the base of my knee, and then I'm going to head back down. Trying to create a little bit of an angle here so that the fibers of the bandage have a little more support. Again, snug as I come around. And then if I have a little extra, I might come up with a little less tension. Take a piece of tape and attach that. And that's the lower leg bandaging process. If you have swelling that extends above your knee, you may have to wrap either above your knee to the mid-thigh, or maybe even up to the groin, depending on how high your swelling goes. Many therapists choose to start the rest of the wrapping from the mid-calf or upper calf across the knee, and then another bandage up to the groin if needed. That sometimes will cause the bandage to pull as you're moving around during the day and trying to bend your knee and going from sitting to standing or other functional activities. Another way that you can do it is to separate those bandages into 3 different parts. So we have a foot, ankle to knee section. The next section might be from above the knee to the mid-thigh or to the groin, depending on how high you need to go. And then a third section can be around the knee. That way you have separate bandages moving and that doesn't tend to pull down. I'm going to show it to you in that way today because it's a very comfortable and functional way to do it. Taking another piece of polar fleece, I'm going to start wrapping around my leg. Go up as far as I need to go. If it's up to the groin, I might need another piece of polar fleece to be able to get up as high as I need to be. Try to make sure that that polar fleece is going to be above where you're going to end the bandage because it will make for a much more comfortable bandage. Depending on how large your leg is will depend on how many bandages you need to use. Ultimately, you'll need 2 to 3 layers of bandage so that it's firm enough that it feels like a semi-rigid cast, comfortable semi-rigid cast. So I'm going to take a 10 meter by 10 centimeter bandage and do just my upper thigh. It's a little easier to do it this way because you don't have to try to keep your knee straight when you bandage your upper thigh. I'm going to come around with an anchor strap twice around, and then I'm going to give it a little snug, lay it down, snug again. I'm crossing about 50% coverage as I spiral up my leg. And you'll come up as far as you need to, or as far as your therapist recommends that you come. Once again, trying to leave a little bit of the polar fleece at the top because that makes it more comfortable. Now I'm going to spiral back down my leg with a snug, and by angling the bandages as you go up and down, you're still getting that herringbone configuration, which creates a little more tension on the bandage. For me, I'm going to have a little extra bandage here. Normally I would stop right here, but instead of cutting the bandage, I'm just going to put it loosely around my leg just to take up the space. Take a piece of tape and anchor it. So now I've completed my lower leg up to the knee, and from the top of my kneecap up as high as I need to go towards my upper thigh or my groin. If I give a little squeeze to my leg, I will feel that it starts to get firm from here on up, and from here down it's not quite as firm. Same thing in my lower leg. It's firm down here, from about here up it's not as firm. So I'm going to make up that firmness with the next bandage right here in my knee. I'm going to take my polar fleece, start it below my knee, come around. This is a little harder because now I need to keep my knee straight as I put this bandage on. So here's my polar fleece. Sometimes the back of the knee will be sensitive, and you can take an extra piece of polar fleece and pop it in there, or a little piece of foam right in through here, and that'll make it a little more comfortable. I'm going to take my next bandage, start down here where it started getting a little less firm, anchor, and then come around again with a little bit of snugness, and now I'm going to come up my knee. Now there's something that we can do that's very special in the back of the knee that creates a cross that keeps the linear part of the bandage from cutting into the back of your knee. So as I come up across the base of my kneecap, I'm going to make a diagonal up across the back of my knee come up around the top of my knee, come one more time around, and then I'm going to come down back with a cross at the back of my knee. Now I've got a crisscross, and that's going to be a lot more comfortable without any sort of linear pressure or lines going across the back of my knee. From here, I'm just going to spiral up as I've done with the rest of it, giving it a little snug up, a little snug down, snug up, snug down. Taking a piece of tape and securing it. Now this one might need a couple pieces of tape because it's around a knee, which is a bendy area. Depending on how much pressure your therapist has advised that you have, we might even need one more bandage across this knee, and you could do the same thing that we just did coming up.